Welcome everyone to Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, the websites by plebes or plebs. Joining us today, very special guest, fellow Bitcoiner and a return guest, Erasmus. He's going to talk to us about the things we don't quite get. Anyways, we're going to go over to the numbers. Let's do it.
Number time!
At the time of this recording, the block height is 701,483. The Bitcoin price, 43,230. Chain rewrite days, 843. Total public lightning capacity, 2,587.43. Sats per dollar, 2,313. And blocks to the halvening, 138,517.
Yeah, took a little bit of a dump.
What, you talking about the public lightning capacity?
I'm talking about the
price?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that definitely came back to test the 42. Well, the high. What was it? I don't know if we went into the 42s. I'm not sure.
The more important question: did you guys stack the dip?
Yes, I stacked that dip. I had no choice. There was really no choice in the matter. It was just terrible. You know, like I saw that. I see this giant candle forming, and I'm like, all right, it's go time.
Dude, only in Bitcoin do people celebrate the price dropping 7% in a day. All of Bitcoin
yes!
Twitter is like, yeah, cheaper sats.
Oh, finally, cheaper sats.
Man, but I have a question for you, and I know
Yes.
it's a kicker, right? Is Fiat the cult or is Bitcoin the cult? I'm going to say Fiat, and check this out. This is my hypothesis, okay? On the dollar, or on fiat money, it's a bunch of old men, and on the back, there's a pyramid with an eye, and people exchange this piece of paper with the pyramid with the eye for things. Sounds kind of culty to me. I don't know about you, bro.
You know what? I forget who it was that I was having this discussion with, but they made an interesting point that, number one, there's nothing wrong with being a cult. Right? There's nothing wrong with it. But the other thing is that, so what if Bitcoin's a cult, right? We're a cult of what? A low time preference cult, right? A cult that wants to have a better future, that wants to not get robbed of their value, right? That you save and earn. Like, think about it. Like, are we really that bad? Think about the cult of fiat though. The cult of fiat is completely debt based. Right? It never ends. Inflation, you constantly have to work harder and harder for less, right? It's the revolution, essentially, of lowered expectations. I mean, it's horrible. So don't get me wrong. Cult or not, it's just a brighter future with Bitcoin. So,
dude,
I don't know.
I'm just going to say this. It's the only cult that gets you progressively wealthier the more you believe in it.
He makes a good point.
That's all I got to say. Anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Fail, sponsored by
Pirate Hash.
You'll have to bear with me a bit, because this is essentially, it seems like it's two unrelated articles. We're going to start with the first one, okay? And I find it very interesting, and it's very much the shitcoiner narrative, okay? So let's dive into it, and You'll see the picture that I'm painting when we get to the end, and if you don't, well then I suck at painting this picture. So here we go, and that's okay. That's okay. I'll get better at it. Let's do it. So Boba Network announces mainnet launch of Layer 2 optimistic rollup. I'm excited already. Here we go. ETH 2.0 is expected to address transaction speeds and gas fees on the world's number 2 blockchain, but a growing number of Layer 2 protocols are looking to solve those issues today. Sounds familiar, right? Sounds like shitcoiner Vitalik doing his 70% pre-mine and spinning off his own shitcoin, and deciding that he's going to make my better tech. So this is what's happening, right? Like they're going to make my better tech. All right. Anyways, so you guys saw, right? Boba Network trying to build another Layer 2, right? Talking about how there's the competition for Layer 2. So check this out. Is this Ethereum-based Layer 2 exchange changing the derivatives market? All right. Now, keep in mind, these are DEXs, all right? So they claim to be, right, decentralized exchanges anyways, and they're trying to build Layer 2s. Okay, here we go. Right now, another Layer 2 based exchange is rising up to the occasion. The demand to utilize Ethereum L2 seems overwhelming. Arbitrarum's TVL rising and that's total value locked. This is the, because God forbid, you can't write those words. You have to make it sound like it's way crazier. It's TVL. Yeah, we got a lot of TVL. Anyways, rising from 238 million to 2.5 billion in under 5 days, being a prime example. DYDX, the next big DEX. L2 native chain DYDX is a non-custodial decentralized exchange that runs on audited smart contracts on Ethereum. Oh, they're audited. So we know we're good. To expand trading, both DYDX and Starkware have built a protocol for cross-margin perpetuals.
Wait.
Right now,
Pause it right there, Phil.
Well, did that not make any sense to
Show
you?
the wrecked leaderboard of the audited rug pulls, okay?
Alpha Finance, 37.5 million. Quantstamp, Peck Shield. We've got KuCoin, 45 million. Internal audit. We've got Spartan Protocol, 30.5 million. Certic. But wait, besides the wrecked leaderboard, hold on a second though, okay? Because we're gonna, you'll see. So this is interesting, right? So the tech, they're eating each other. Because this is the problem when you're trying to get money for doing absolutely nothing. Like, you start to run out of ideas, and like, let's face it, right? The tech narrative is endless. You can always pretend to be making something better that's more important, that's going to save the world. Okay, anyways, let's dive into this. To expand trading, both DYDX and Starkware have built a protocol for cross-margin perpetuals. And right now, the numbers are speaking for themselves. This just sounds like a load of crap.
I don't know what that means.
Cross-margin perpetuals. Well, I'll tell you this. Something that is perpetual, okay, that means it's not really there. Okay? So, a protocol for cross-margin perpetuals? Are we saying that these margins don't really exist? They're perpetual margins? They could be margins? Anyways. All right, let's keep going into this. As observed, the total value locked, nice. They give us the definition, sweet. In DYDX, catapulted up to 520 million after being under 200 million during the first week of August. Now recently, the daily perpetual swap trading volume averaged to 1 billion over the past few days, reaching up to 2.5 billion during the fourth week of August. So you see how those numbers keep increasing? Keep going up, huh? Looks good. It's audited, right? Anyways, yeah, I know this hasn't rug pulled yet, unfortunately. But don't worry, we get somewhere. Additionally, the spike over the past 2 days might be down to the fact that the exchange released its governance token with the latest airdrop surpassing $100,000 in valuation. May have created an immediate flux of users coming into the space with the native chain exploding in terms of activity. Okay, we've all seen this happen before, major pump and dump. While Layer 2 solutions are seemingly the answer to everything at the moment, investing in such projects could lead to massive collapse if the collective L2 market is not calibrated with some form of market protection. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, that just tells you, like, again, right? They're just selling you this absolute fluff narrative. Now look, although this hasn't rug pulled yet, I just read to you two completely different quote unquote dexes, okay, which are essentially, they're not waiting for Ethereum. They want to build their own layer 2 solutions. They're not waiting for it. Now, we've seen this before, like I mentioned before, right? This is what people tried to do to Bitcoin, and we all see what happens. We've got the wrecked leaderboard. We've got the token sniffer website, which shows you now we're up to over 45,000 scams on that website. But I figured we would just quickly go over what the definition. What's a rug pull? Rug pull is a malicious maneuver in the cryptocurrency industry where crypto developers abandon a project and run away with investors' funds. Rug pulls usually happen in the decentralized DeFi ecosystem, especially on decentralized exchanges, DEXs. Now, did you see how those numbers were going up in that last article? Mm-hmm. Got to over 1 billion? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we're going to be talking about them in a couple of weeks. Anyways, once a significant amount of unsuspecting investors swap their ETH for the listed token, the creators then withdraw everything from the liquidity pool, driving the coin's price to zero. The coin's creators may even create a temporary hype around Telegram, Twitter, and other social media platforms, and initially inject a substantial amount of liquidity into their pool to cultivate investor confidence.
Now I'm connecting the dots.
All right, guys. Hey, it's going up. You got to get in. There's no time. This thing's going to get away without you. Right? It's the next big thing, and everyone's cashing in.
Dude.
I'm telling, man, it is such garbage, and everybody, like, so many people get sucked into this absolute nonsense. Okay? These tokens exist for nothing but providing liquidity to rug pullers and scammers. Like, that's it. That's all it is.
Absolutely, man. And look, I just want to drill down on these two things, okay? DeFi is not DeFi. It should really be called CeFi, right? And the reason for that, and I say this all the time, right? And it mentioned it there, right? The smart contract is audited, right? You could look, I asked Phil to pull up the rec leaderboard on purpose. Audited smart contracts still get rug pulled. And why is that? Because the person that develops the smart contract is essentially God, and very few people know how to read that code, right? So they could maliciously put code in there, right, that allows them to drain that whole pool, that whole liquidity pool, right? So again, not only does this, really show the failures of Ethereum, it also shows, again, DeFi is not DeFi, it's CeFi. And again, I'm going to connect it to something that we've been discussing a lot on this show, right? This is why, you have all the DeFi people freaking out about the regulators in DC. If DeFi was really DeFi, then the regulators in DC and in governments wouldn't be able to shut it down in the first place, right? So avoid the scams, just put your money in Bitcoin, and you don't have to get rug pulled. It's as simple as that, right? I'm telling you, these things are designed, shitcoins, DeFi, DEXs, all of that. They're specifically designed, right? And they'll use all the buzzwords. We talk about the ingenious names that they come up with, and they're literally, their sole purpose is to get you to trade your sats for their shit, and then they run away, right? Happens all the time. And there's a freaking leaderboard. That's how much it happens. Anyways, Erasmus, what are your thoughts on this?
I tell you, the future, in my mind, without a doubt, only belongs to a coin like Bitcoin. Anything else is just simply false. I mentioned to you in a previous program that as long as a coin is printed by a group of individuals or originates out of a corporation, it simply will not survive in the long run. They will not have the trust of the public. So all the variations and iterations, or as Phil just mentioned, the rug pullers, the decentralized exchanges, none of that is going to last in the end. Remember, the automobile industry in the beginning had 120 plus players in the US, and how many were left at the end? A handful, right? So I think that that's what you see in the future. They will fall on their own, and a lot of people is losing money. It's being really taken for a ride by these rock pullers, as Phil calls them.
And absolutely. And now, you have Gary Gensler, testifying in front of the Senate Banking Committee, right? Specifically saying that he is going to go after DeFi and stable coins, specifically what we've been saying on the show a lot, the lowest hanging fruit, anything that is not sufficiently decentralized, regulators, the US government, other governments are going to shut it down because they can. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Meme Review, sponsored by
Citadel 21.
All right, everybody, the meme for today. Well, we got two memes, but the first meme is brought to us by a legendary meme lord. One of the meme lords that brought us the laser ray to 100K. Labrahodl10, give him a follow. He's only making up to 21 accounts. So this is his 10th life.
He's getting close.
And soon, he's almost halfway there. Anyways, let's check out his meme. Lehman Brothers collapse, Evergrande collapse. Amazing meme. I picked this one because Erasmus was coming on the show today. So next one, we got, and I'm not going to say much, but incredible likeness, to be honest, by the Meme Factory. And that is a Satoshi. That is a statue of Satoshi, and someone's face on there. If you know, you know. But anyways, for that meme, I'm gonna give it a very special score. Actually, Phil, why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, look, I love them both. I mean that train one we've seen so many times before, and it's so fitting for Evergrande. So I'm just so excited to dig into that. But that second meme, okay, even though Nico didn't want to tell anyone, that's Al Finney, right? So just to be nice to the noobs, come on. All right? They might not know. They might not know who that is. They might not get it. You let them know.
It's an unspoken secret, dude.
It's not a secret. But anyways, okay. I'm giving it my brand new network cable tester, but it's not just a network cable tester. You could also test phone lines, which are useless today, but you could also test your wiring and figure out, like if there's like a loss of voltage or something like that, if there's a break in the wire. So
Phil and his gadgets, another one, a network cable tester. Really cool stuff. I don't. Where do you store all? No, never mind. I've been to your house. I know where. Everywhere. You guys should see his basement. I'm gonna make him post a behind the scenes so you guys understand.
You're gonna think it's not clean, but it is. Okay, it's actually very organized.
It is very organized. It's organized chaos. Anyways, for that meme, I'm gonna give it a very special score. By Erasmus actually sent me this book, The Equilibrist. It's one of Erasmus's book, and it's about finding balance in your life. Anyways, Erasmus, what would you give that meme?
Well, I'm going to go symbolic today. I'm going to give it a yuan bill, a 1 yuan bill, being the currency of China.
Oh, a 1 yuan bill. Okay. Oh, some foreshadowing right there. Some foreshadowing. I like it. Awesome scores for some awesome memes. Phil just said the unspoken secret out loud. Why not? Okay. Anyways, guys, do you agree with our scores? Do you disagree? Let us know down in the comments. And, of course, join our Telegram group. Give us some Bitcoin memes to review because it's a meme review. And that's what we do. We review memes. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily News, sponsored by
Crypto Cloaks.
All right, everybody. Check out more articles from the Fiat propaganda arm in complete meltdown. And this is what we do. We debunk them. I'm going to run through some bullet points today just to catch up. We're going to focus mostly on what's going on in China. So let's get through this really quickly. Let's check out this I guess, post line, whatever. Threats to democracy increase as President Bukele moves to control El Salvador. Right, and then we got one, Latin America erupts millennial authoritarianism in El Salvador. Of course, they're criticizing President Bukele, and this is all happening since Bitcoin has become legal tender. And guess what President Bukele did? Bukele dictator, and he put that as his bio, so he's literally trolling, and then he criticizes, right? Remember what I told you guys about projection, right? So who's really the authoritarians? This is happening in Australia. And remember, guys, this is all for the health of the public. They're beating the crap out of people because they want them to be healthy.
Safety first, Nico.
Safety first.
Safety and health.
Safety first. Oh, okay. And speaking of authoritarians, and to clarify a point on yesterday, because we had one of our viewers kind of confused, in letters to lawmakers, the administration officials asked Congress to require banks to report annual inflows and outflows from banks with at least $600 or at least $600 worth of transactions, a proposal aimed at letting the IRS target its audits more effectively. Okay, so who is more authoritarian, right? A government that is literally spying on every single transaction over $600, a government that is literally beating the crap out of people because of public health, I guess, or right, a government that has a 7.6 out of 10 approval rating, 87% approval rating, 84% approval rating, 8.79% approval rating, 92.1% approval rating, 86.5 approval rating, and not to mention a government that adopted the freest money in mankind's history, Bitcoin. And check out this news from Nayib Bukele. He definitely bought the dip. President of a country just said on Twitter, we bought the dip. 150 new coins. El Salvador now holds 700 coins. El Salvador is first.
He's catching up to Coinbase, man.
Catching up to Coinbase. Coinbase has 4,000. El Salvador is right there on its tails. But I just find it hilarious. And this is what I say, Phil, projection, right? Latin American erupts millennial authoritarianism, right? And there you have it, right? You know, you have a push by, you know, governments to literally monitor every transaction over $600, right? You have Australia, people getting the shit beaten out of them, really. You have this in France as well, but they're calling him the dictator. And the reason for that is because Bitcoin is legal tender and it is a threat to the establishment. Anyways, moving on, check this out, more hope. Right, and this is what I'm talking to you guys about the incentives of Bitcoin. Check out all this mining news. Bitcoin miner Greenwich Generation announced on September 15 it had ordered 10,000 S19 Pro Bitcoin mining rooms for Bitmain to expand the company's mining fleet. But wait, there's more. ClearSpark announces 145 million in capital and human investment in Georgia. Software and services company recently turned Bitcoin miner CleanSpark announced on September 16th. Notice how close the dates are, Phil. September 15th, September 16th, a series of investments in Norcross, Georgia, the home of its newly acquired 87,000-foot data center totaling $145 million. Check this out. Partnership Gwyneth is a public-private initiative dedicated to bringing new jobs and capital investments to its county, right? But remember, guys, Bitcoin mining is bad, but again, the incentives are irresistible, and this is what you're seeing from a public company, from another country, and even from a communist country. Laos pushes into Bitcoin and shitcoin as it authorizes mining and trading. And check this out. Again, the incentives are irresistible. Policy shift comes just a month after central bank issued warning against Bitcoin and shitcoins. So the incentives are so strong, even that the Bend Central Bank didn't want them to do this. They couldn't resist it, baby, because that's how Bitcoin works. Laos has authorized the mining and trading of Bitcoin and shitcoins in a policy shift by the debt-laden Southeast Asian nation that positions itself, here we go, here's the signal, profit from the crackdown on digital currency mining in China, right? China bans Bitcoin mining. It becomes, after the difficulty adjustment, it becomes an opportunity for everybody else. And that's exactly what you're seeing. Analysts said the move was a logical step for the landlocked communist-ruled country of 7 million, which produces, again, this is what I told you, stranded energy, produces a surplus of hydroelectric power. But some warn that, of course, you know, they put in the propaganda. Some warn that criminal gangs can seek profit from the trade, blah, blah, blah. The Bitcoin and shitcoin push marks an about-face after the country's central bank last month warned banks, companies, and people against using Bitcoin and shitcoins. Right? They warned it against it, but they still want to benefit from it. The office of the Prime Minister this week said 6 companies, including construction groups and a bank, have been authorized to begin mining and trading Bitcoin and shitcoins, such as Bitcoin, shitcoin, and shitcoin. Right? So again, all you're seeing, this is because of the incentives of Bitcoin. And now you can see it in real time. Right here is the China ban right here. This is when the China ban happened. And again, this is the recovery of the hash rate. And this recovery of the hash rate, right, is indicative of Bitcoin's incentives. No central CEO, no committee, no Vitalik, no Charles Hodgkinson, nothing. Pure people, decentralized entrepreneurs all around the world jumping on ship trying to mine Bitcoin because of the incentives that the Bitcoin network provides, and therefore making Bitcoin more secure, therefore increasing the value proposition of Bitcoin. Again, this is all happening without a central authority, right? Remember the big blocks argument, Phil? Remember the committee argument, Phil? Well, there you go. This is the truth. Anyways, we brought Erasmus today, right? And I wanted to run by those headlines real quick to talk about the Evergrande debacle that's happening in China, how it relates to fiat, how Bitcoin fixes this, right? So I'm just going to read the headline, and then I'm going to let Erasmus kind of explain what's going on. Fears about China's Evergrande spread to global markets, right? We've been hearing a lot of commotion, on Twitter, on the mainstream propaganda arm, right? Everywhere. What's going on, Erasmus? How does it relate to Bitcoin? How does it relate to fiat? Please explain what's going on.
Imagine for a moment that the US economy was basically controlled by the government. How? Imagine that the US government was the owner of the largest banks in the US. And imagine that the Fed, in addition to buying bonds, would be lending money to corporations and therefore also establishing economic controls over them. That's the tale in China. They have a political system that is described as totalitarian, and they supposedly run a free market economy on the business side. The problem is what I just described, that the main financial institutions are controlled by the government, and the Fed, the central bank in China, goes way beyond what we actually get scared of here in the US and call quantitative easing, because they actively provide financing to corporations. Just to give a measure of what is the kind of a problem they're facing right now, Evergrande is part of the Global 500. It means it's one of the largest corporations in the world in revenue. They employ 200,000 people directly, and indirectly, basically 3.8 to 4 million people depend on them. They claim to own 1,300 projects in more than 280 cities in China. 1,300 projects. And they have interest in electrical cars, amusement parks. They own the Guangzhou soccer team and are currently building what is supposed to be the largest soccer stadium in the world at a cost of $1.7 billion, and supposedly it's going to seat about 100,000 people. This is a massive company. Suffering from what? From soft loans, money created inorganically, familiar tale, right, with our Fed here, and money not generated by the economy that came to them in bunches. And basically...
So when you say inorganic money, you mean printed money?
Yes, you could call it that. I call it inorganic. You can call it printed, because that's the effect of being inorganic. That basically for them to generate something that wasn't created by the economic factors of the economy, they eventually, in a way, printed, okay, or credited in the accounts electronically of the banking system. But in this case, you have the Central Bank of China not only buying bonds, treasury bonds and corporate bonds, but actually enabling banks to provide financing almost unlimitedly to these state-owned or state-controlled corporations. So basically, this company grew so fast and invested in so many things at the same time that their debt load became unmanageable. The number that is said is that they owe over $300 billion in liabilities, and they have given warnings in the last 2 weeks, that they cannot pay. They're having trouble selling some of their assets. That was the first warning sign that came out. And then now there seem to be big difficulties for them to pay the interest. On this Thursday, there is a big payment that they have to do. The world is watching whether the government once more is going to bail them out. Because the dilemma that the government has there is that when a government takes this type of role, where now the fiat currency printing becomes basically without any control whatsoever, is that the obligations at some point in time have to be paid. And if the company doesn't have the means, and in this case, you could have thousands upon thousands of Chinese people that has paid for their apartments, their little houses, that are never going to receive them, that may cause social unrest, which is the only thing that is the Chinese government is afraid of. They do not allow themselves to be placed in that situation. So in many occasions in the past, they have bailed out many situations that have just come, been swept under the rug. This one is so big, so large, that everybody's watching to see what they're going to do. So far, they haven't said anything. They haven't given any signs that they're actually going to help them. They have let the situation go and gotten worse and worse and worse. So I believe at the end of the day, Nicolas, that this is a telltale of what can happen with this process of unfettered, unlimited printing of fiat money. Here you have an example where basically at the end of the day, an obligation has to be paid, and there is not enough money there to cover it. And when the company is of this magnitude, you're talking about an effect that could actually affect the rest of the financial markets because of the size of the company.
I don't know why, but this sounds very familiar. This sounds like AIG. Not exactly the same, but very similar. But it also sounds like the U.S. government.
That's what I make in the analogy. It is similar, but at the same time, you have to realize that if the U.S. government could actually continue to pump money directly into corporations, they will extend, the end of this hot air balloon longer. That's the dilemma China has right now, the Chinese government. But in the end, we're talking here about Bitcoin, right? And compare this to what Bitcoin is. Because in here, we continue to talk about things that don't exist, money that is created out of thin air. And then you have a massive corporation. I mean, imagine how many people depends on this company. And $300 billion in liabilities that they cannot, fulfill or pay. And you basically, what is the root of this company? The root of this company was fiat money, using Nico's terms, printed without any constraints, any value to sustain it underneath. Eventually, that balloon basically explodes, right? So that's what we're facing with Evergrande. Be careful, because you have a government here that has the power, unlimited power, to continue to bail out these situations. But there is a moment where that will is going to stop. That should serve us as a clear example of why fiat would be replaced by BTC, fiat in general in the world, but also is a telltale, is an analogy to the US in the sense that this is where we could end in the future if we could just increasing our debt the way we're doing it. Now we're talking about a 3.5 trillion package, right? Of bonds that don't have buyers. Remember what I said in the last time I was with you guys? That are going to be sold really from the left pocket to the right pocket. Yes, it's a telltale of what could happen to us.
So it's essentially it's like a never-ending cycle, right? Where it's the Chinese government infuse this company with artificial or inorganic money or printed money, right? And it just grew this company enormously, right? And then why is it that it started to fail?
Because if you build many more apartments than the market demands, and you have entire ghost cities with towers and towers that are empty, because basically you just built not based on what the market wanted from you.
I understand. So they were giving them money to prop up the value of the company, and they were using that money to build stuff that the market didn't necessarily need in the first place.
Yeah, I think the money not necessarily went to prop up the value of the company, but it was basically working capital being used in the most inefficient possible way. Because basically, when you go and raise money or capital in the market, is because the market needs more services, more products from your company, and you actually need the capital to actually respond to that. But when actually the cart is before the horse, you run into this situation, right? Because you're getting more and more liquidity. You of course go and spend that money and spend it and spend it. Or what happens when you need to pay it back? What you have right now.
Yep, and you see the same thing. It's crazy because you see the similarities, with the U.S. leaving $80 billion in Afghanistan, right? It's like as if they don't care, right? And this is all the result. It's all the result of this fake money that they create out of thin air, right? So they don't really care. Under a Bitcoin standard, you wouldn't be giving this money, this company Bitcoin, unless they actually needed your business, right? So again, this is just a symptom of fiat money. And is this going to be? And this question is to Phil. Is this going to be the Lehman Brothers of China?
You know what? That's an interesting question, because I think what Erasmus said about their debt right now is at like $300 billion or something like that. So the payments on that alone, like, don't get me wrong, but this is scary stuff. Like what's also strange is that the Chinese government technically owns this company also at the same time. So it's really even weirder, like totally, to Erasmus's point, right? From the left pocket to the right pocket. I mean, this is like a circle jerk of, epic proportions. And don't get me wrong, but this is way bigger than Lehman Brothers. So
the credit issue in China it certainly is, because this is not the only case. I mean, this is just the one that we are learning about, okay? But this issue of unpaid loans by large Chinese corporations, highly indebted Chinese corporations, this is widespread. This is not the only case. This happens to be the one that has the largest debt, the largest developer and real estate, construction company that has the largest debt of them all. They are the most indebted of them all, but they're not the only one that are highly indebted.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, I just want to finish one thing. We remember, right, what happened in the 2008 mortgage crisis. You heard about one company one day, and then all of a sudden 2 days later you hear about another big company, then 3 days later another one, and then all of a sudden all these others start popping out of the woodwork that are going under. So it's like, who knows? You know what I mean? Like Evergrande right now, they are paying people, right? People are getting paid. Companies are getting paid, contractors. When this blows up, all those contractors, all those people, they're not getting paid anymore. So you're going to see the insane ripple effects from this. Absolutely. This is nuts.
Well, this issue right now is even more serious than that, because the ones that are really angry are the buyers, the home buyers, the apartment buyers. They have even some managers sequestered. Read the news. They have some Evergrande managers sequestered in their home. These are the buyers. Okay. Yeah. So social unrest is the last thing that the Chinese government will allow to happen, but because of fear, because that's the thing that could make them lose control of their, of their political stronghold on the country. But right now, my prediction is that somehow we're going to see another bailout because of the same reason. But the question is, for how long? How are they going to prevent this from happening in many other situations, many other companies that have these amounts, these debts, figures that they cannot handle? And let's use that as an analogy to our situation here, where our public debt keeps growing and growing and growing. Are we heading in the same direction in the future? And it's all based on the fact that we're using a currency that is not real, a currency system that is not real, is not based on real economic transactions. Money earned, profits generated, expenses paid with the money you generate, capital built over time as the companies make profits. That's why they don't care about the 40 billion they left in Afghanistan, because nobody earned that money, Nick. Nobody earned it.
Man, the world under the fiat standard, and I want to thank Erasmus, for explaining, the fiat world and what's going on in Evergrande, China's Lehman Brothers. Well, you guys heard it here. But anyways, Phil, there was a software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. All right, we've got Zap Android version 0.5.1 beta that was released, and Zap is a Bitcoin and Lightning wallet. Check it out down below in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, before we go, I want to give a shout out to our awesome sponsors. Check out CryptoCloaks.com for the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch. Get yourself a Bitcoin grenade and anything off the store. 5% off down below. And, of course, check out Citadel 21 for Bitcoin news by plebs, for plebs, written by plebs. Phil and I have written articles for them. Get yourself a physical copy of a volume. There's only 1,000 made. And check out piratehash.com for some awesome, really cool, interesting Bitcoin stuff. It's by the guy that developed the UI for Bisq. His name is Pedro. And of course, give a shout out to our awesome guest who explains the fiat world, because Phil and I are Bitcoiners. We don't understand him, don't understand the fiat world. We understand Erasmus, of course. Definitely go check out his YouTube channel. It's called the Happiness Triangle Series. And check out his Substack, where he makes sense of the fiat insanity going on. I'll link it down below. It's called Erasmus's newsletter. Guys, that was our show. If you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the catastrophic fails from the Fiat, Evergrande, future Lehman Brothers, and the Bitcoin news from the perspective, definitely consider subscribing, and we will see you tomorrow, guys, for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.
Evergrande? Not so much.